Modals, or in the other word you can say auxiliaries. The verb be, that is am, is, was, etc., have and do, when used with ordinary verbs to make tense, passive form, questions and negatives are called auxiliary verbs or auxiliaries. Auxiliary here it means the helping verb. The modals can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, must and ought to are termed defective verb because some part are wanting in them. They have no s in the third form singular and they have no ing and ed form as discussed in the previous lecture about can and could. Now continuing with the other, like first is the auxiliary. First we'll discuss the auxiliary be. In auxiliary be is used in the formation of the continuous tense, in the formation of the continuous tense. For example, he is working, I was writing. In the formation of the passive, in the formation of the passive voice, for example, the gate was opened. Be followed by the infinite is used to indicate a plan, to indicate about the arrangement or about the agreement. For example, I am to see him tomorrow or we are to be married next month. Next is to denote a command. To denote a command, as you are to write your name at the top of each sheet of paper, or the second example, mother says you are to go market at once. So be is used in the past tense also with the perfect infinitive to indicate an arrangement that was made but not carried out. For example, again giving you the example for the same, that is they were to have been married last month but have to postpone the marriage until June. So this was the activity which was to take place last month but didn't take place. Next is have. The auxiliary have is used in the formation of the present perfect. In the formation of present perfect, for example, he has worked, he has been working. Have to is used with the infinite to indicate obligation. To indicate obligation, for example, I have to be there by 5 o'clock, or the second example, he has to move the furniture himself. Next, have. The past form had is to express. The past form of have is had, which is used to express the obligation in the past. The obligation in the past, for example, I had to be there by 5 o'clock. And the next is in negatives and question, have to and had to you are used with do, does, or did. And sometimes with as, for example, they have to go, they has to go, he had to go. For example, they have to go, they don't have to go, they don't have to, do they have to go. Next is he has to go. Now the negative sentence for the same, he doesn't have to go, and the interrogative sentence or the question you can say, does he have to go. Next the sentence is he had to go and the negative of it is he didn't have to go and the question is did he have to go. Next, do. The auxiliary do is used to form the negative and interrogative of the simple present and the simple past tense. Present and past. For example, he doesn't work, he didn't work, or sometimes it is also used to avoid repetition. For example, do you know him? Yes, I do. Now the difference between may and might. May and might. May is used like if in previous lecture also I have told you the difference between can and may, and the difference is that can usually express the ability or capability, and may it expresses the possibility in the affirmative sentence. Can is used in the correspondence interrogative and negative also. Now may is used to tell you the possibility in the affirmative sentence. For example, it may rain tomorrow. It may rain tomorrow means there is a possibility that it can rain. In the very formal English, may is used to express wish. May is also used to express the wish, as may you live happily and long, may success attend you. Might, now talking about might. In present time context, could and might are used as less positive version of can and may. As I could attempt the party, the less positive and less and more hesitant than I can attend the party, because you're not so sure about it. It might rain tomorrow, so there is less possibility if you say it may rain, and if you say it might rain. So difference is that may has got a more possibility and might has not got that possibility. Not very strong point. Might is also used to express a degree of dissatisfaction. Might is also used to show the degree of dissatisfaction or reproach. For example, you might pay a little more attention to your appearance. So, now the difference between shall and should. Shall is used in the first person, and will is used in the person to express for pure future. For example, today I shall be less common, and then I or we will. Talking about shall is sometimes used in the second and the third person to express a command or promise or threat. Promise or threat, which is used in the place of second person. As I've mentioned that promise shall is used in the case of promise and threat for the second person, because shall is usually used in the place of first person only. But if you're using it in the place of second person, that means you are talking something about promise or you are threatening somebody. That uses of shall are not used very formally and generally avoided when you are speaking. We do take it in the time of writing, but usually it is ignored when you are talking to somebody. Now talking about should is the past of shall. Should show the compulsion, or you can say it shows the necessity. You should wear your school uniform when you come to school. The difference between will and would. Difference between will and would. Will is used to express violation, as I will carry your book, I will try to be better next time. That is what you are showing is the promise. I will be better next time. Or if you say that I will carry a book, that is what you are showing your willingness. I will succeed or die in the attempt. That means you are determined. You are tenacious about doing the thing. It also shows the characteristic or the habit. Characteristic or habit, as he will talk about nothing but films. He will sit for hours listening to the wireless. It also talks about assumption or probability, as this will be the book you want, I suppose, or that will be the postman, I think. So you are showing the habit of think when you use a word uh, will. You are showing the assumption or the probability. The past form of will is would. It is used for past equivalent of the will. For example, he said he would be 25 next birthday, or she said she would carry my books. So in should and would are used. For example, how the should and would is used. I should like you to help her. So in place of should, I would have used would also. I would like you to help her. If I say I should like to help her or I would like to help her, both convey the same meaning. He should be in the library now. It expresses the probability that the person should be in the library. I wish you would not chatter so much. So would after wish expresses a strong desire. Next is must. Next we'll talk about must. Must is used to express the necessity or the obligation. For example, you must improve your spelling or we must get up early. Next is must refers to the present or the near future as well. It refers to the present, but sometimes it refers to the near future. To talk about the past, we used to had must has not past form. For example, yesterday we had to get up early. Must is often used when the obligation comes from the speaker. When the obligation comes from somewhere else, have to is used in the comparison of must. For example, I must be on a diet. That is, it's my own idea. I have to be on diet. That means the doctor has told me to be on diet. That means this is the obligation which is coming from the speaker. So if it is coming from the speaker, other one, the second person, that means the in place of must, we'll use the word have to. It also expresses the logical certainty. For example, living in such crowded condition must be difficult. That means I am sure that it is difficult. So it also shows the logical certainty. Next, speaking about ought to. Ought to expresses a moral obligation or desirability. For example, we ought to love our neighbor, we ought to help others. So this is what is the moral obligation. We ought to respect our parent, and ought to can also be used to express the probability. For example, prices ought to come down soon. This book ought to be very difficult. Next, talking about used to, need, and dare. The auxiliary used to expresses a continued habit. For example, there used to be a house there. I used to live there when I was a boy. So used to as an auxiliary verb is old fashioned and nowadays very formal. Today we normally use did in negative and in question. For example, did you used to swim? The auxiliary need, denoting the need, if I talk about need, it denotes necessity or obligation, which can be conjugated with or without do. When conjugation without do, it has no s and ed form and is used with an infinite without the only in negative and interrogative sentence and in sentence that contains semi-negative words like scarcely and hardly. He need to go. Need I write to him? I need hardly take his step. That is, it is not necessary for him to go. Next, dare. The auxiliary dare. That means to be brave enough, to be courageous enough. As distinct from the ordinary verb dare, that is a challenge, does not exist with s. It does not exist with s in the third person singular present tense. It is generally used in negative and interrogative sentence. When conjugated with do, it is followed by an infinite without to. When conjugated with do, it takes an infinite with or without to after it.